Welcome back to PSS, everyone, and welcome to a new series simply titled Explained. This series I want to be tackling some misconceptions and misunderstandings within the guitar and recording world, and hopefully clear up some muddy points for not only beginners but, professionals and veterans alike. So we're going to be starting with the difference between active pickups like on this guitar and passive pickups. Now before we get into that, you'll have to understand first how a pickup works. So a pickup is basically just a big wound magnet that, when induced with the vibration of a string, sends out a signal through the input jack into your monitors or into your amplifier, whatever you're playing through. It is not a microphone. That's something that is a big misconception among beginning guitar players. You can scream as loud as you want into one of those and you're not going to hear your voice or anything for that matter, unless there's background hum. It works off of electromagnetic fields changing. That is literally all it does. So a passive pickup like you see on this Les Paul is the simplest type. It is just one or two pickups wired together, maybe three if your guitar has it, and all these knobs do is change the tone through a filter or the volume through a resistor, variable resistor basically. And the switch just changes between the positions, and depending on which position you're going to get a different type of electromagnetic response because of where you are on the string. Generally the bridge pickup is going to be a lot more bright, crunchy, what you want for a rhythm tone, and up on the rhythm pickup, which is funny that it's named that, but generally neck pickup is the term for that. That's where you want to get your bluesy, better rhythm sound generally. So that's all they do. They require no other input. You just plug in a jack, sound comes out. What's the problem with passive pickups? Well, for a lot of people, they're fine, but in some instances they can be noisy. They may not have as much output as some people like. So back in the 80s, they came out with active pickups. Now, unfortunately, I don't have two of the same type of guitars to do an apple-to-apple sound comparison, so we're just going to have to rely on explanation for this video. But what do active pickups do differently than passives? Well, you can probably see they look quite a bit different, just basically a big block. And of course, you can get decorative covers for passive pickups as well, but these are different in the sense that you need a power source, not just like a passive where you plug in a cord and you're good to go. Whatever input it gets, it's just going to send it out the back. This thing, if you don't have something plugged into it, such as a 9-volt battery or an 18-volt battery, or two 9 volts wired together in series, which you can watch a video which I do this on this very guitar, then you're not going to get any output. So it does have the disadvantage of needing a power source. Fortunately, some companies now are creating rechargeable batteries through USB. I don't know why that took so long, but they take like a year and a half of normal playing, so it's not like you have to change it very often. But why would you want to do this? Well, for starters, they're generally quieter than passive pickups. Now, insulation and all of that has gotten a lot better over the past few years, so you can get a passive set that's basically non-existent. And now that we have stuff like these noise gates for real pedals, or even in digital versions, there's not as big of a deal nowadays. But what they do still have an advantage is higher output. So, if you're a guitar player back in the 80s trying to push a Marshall JCM 800 to its max, you'd have a tube screamer, that thing cranked up to 10 or 11, and probably a set of EMGs, just because that's how you're going to get the highest gain possible. Nowadays, amp simulators and amplifiers are just so ridiculously high gain that the EMGs are often too high output for their own good. It gives you more of a sludgy and less clear bottom end for stuff like 7 and 8 strings, especially when you tune them below their standard tuning. You can combat this by doing stuff like the 18-volt mod, or using some more hybrid style pickups, such as the EMG 808X, which has a higher overhead. And they do some stuff with the preamps inside the pickups as well as the active filtering. So there are some different techniques you can do to get different sounds out of active pickups, but the general consensus is that they have much less dynamicism than a passive pickup. You're not going to notice as much of the difference between the loud and the soft, the picking styles, and active pickups kind of act as a compressor for your guitar going in. And that can be preferable. I myself, I like that style for certain types of music I write, so I wanted actives in an 8-string. There's some stuff I wish I had a passive sometimes. Now there are pickups like Fishman, which I know are coming out with some stuff on Framus's guitars that have a switch that you can voice their sound between like a single coil, passive pickup, a humbucker like shown on Les Paul, and finally, you know, a standard active pickup. So there are a lot more options nowadays than there used to be if you're willing to pay the money. So the big question is, if you're buying a new instrument, or you know, you're shopping around for a new set of pickups, which do you get? There's no right answer. It really depends on what you like, and my best advice would be try out a bunch before you settle on something. Stuff like Seymour Duncan's Blackouts I really like, stuff like the Lundgren pickups. If you're wanting to pay a little bit extra, you can absolutely do that. Fishman has some good stuff. Juggernaut Bare Knuckles I know are gaining a lot of popularity because Misha Mansour plays them in Periphery. Everything has its drawbacks, everything has its advantages, so I say shop around, listen to as many demos as you can before you settle, because it's all going to depend on the type of music that you play. Generally, if I were buying a new 8-string today and you're going to be playing through stuff like an Axe Effects or really high quality effects, you're probably better off with passives. If you want this kind of compressed low end and you don't mind doing a little bit of work to get more dynamics, a little bit higher overhead like I did, you're probably okay with EMGs. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff nowadays on the higher end instruments, as far as extended range stuff goes, is coming pre-packaged with active pickups. Good luck finding them if you're not getting it from some type of boutique luthier or something like that. Even this Agile, they had a couple brands that you could get, or a couple different models that had passives in them, but they're generally out of stock and they were not available when I went for this one. So for the price, I can't complain. I'm not disappointed with these pickups, but there are times where, again, I wish I had a flip switch that I could just say, okay, I want passives today, I want actives today, I want a single coil on this song. But that is coming along. So just realize you're not really going to make a wrong decision if you choose one over the other. They're just going to sound differently, and you might have to tweak some settings upstream in your signal chain if you're wanting to get a particular sound. So that's actives versus passives in a nutshell. One you need a battery for, it's a little bit higher output, a little bit more compression. The other one's a bit more natural and no tinkering, although for some wiring jobs or some pickups you might get a little bit of noise, but once again, one of these or the digital equivalent is going to take care of your entire signal chain anyway, so it's not nearly as big of a deal. So, hope you like that. We're going to be back with this series for all kinds of different stuff, including what a noise gate does, some differences between overdrive, distortion, and preamp pedals, and all kinds of stuff later. If you have suggestions, feel free to leave them, and if there's anything else you'd like to add to this whole passives versus active thing, I'd like to hear them. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on another episode of Explained. Bye.